and then what are the issues that we are facing every day, and then how we are going to how are we fixing it, what are things to do in the future, right? And then at the end we will have a kind of a question and answer. Whatever the question you point sent to Scott is gonna redirect to me, or in between you can stop Scott, like send the in a question, and then I'll try to answer it on the floor, right? All right. So in the agenda, like data ingestion and then data modeling, reporting, or and then predictive data analytics, these are things we will talk about in the first, let's say like 10 minutes, and then next 10 minutes will be reconciliation process. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A, right? Um, this is the like a common architecture across all the companies. Like, it's not exactly replicates how Atalum is doing. Currently, we don't have an enterprise data lake, but we are trying to bring it in. And then we have a enterprise data warehouse. Currently, we do have two different data warehouses. One is a Snowflake SaaS-based data warehouse. Another one is old legacy Oracle-based data warehouse. But our goal is to bring all the data Oracle data warehouse to Snowflake. That's a separate project that's currently going on. So if you look at this diagram, like in the bottom is the data sources, your enterprise system. I don't see a single company that has only one system that they are dealing with, right? In 20, 25 years experience, at least they will have a 12 to 15, or some companies have up to 100 systems they are dealing with, right? But we need to have a single version of truth, right? So if you have many systems that their point of view, that data might be looking good, but when you look at the other side of the, either report or any other dashboards, it might be different, right? What happened in between? So that's the data issue, that the data ETL process, something happens in those things. So the bottom line is the data sources. We believe that the data source is always true, right? And then we are taking the data, putting it into the data warehouse using the ETL process, online or near online or batch process. We're putting it into the data warehouse, and then from the data warehouse, and then we will have multiple data merged, and then we will have usages, right? Business intelligence is your reports, and then dashboards, and then anything else you are looking and taking out of it. Maybe you take the data and then extract it, send it to other systems, or you can send it to the government or any other vendors that they are going to use the data. And then other is like evolving department is like a data science platform. They can use the data for predicting or machine learning, or like any automation process that needs to be done. That's the data science platform. So I am in between, basically. I'm between the data sources, and then between analytics and then data sources. My job is to keep my enterprise data warehouse is as accurate as possible. When I joined this team, is about like 85 to 90% is accuracy. Right now it's about 99.98%. So how did we do that? And what are the steps we have taken? What are the new tools that we brought into that, our technical tool inventory? And then those things we'll talk about this one, right? On the left side, we have experience platform. We are not connecting to that the data warehouse, because the obvious reasons, the data warehouse might be delayed. It may not be near. It may not be accurate at this point of time, or it may be data is delayed. It may be updated later sometime, because we have three different processes, right? One is online, and then near online, and then batch process. So we are not using that portal to the in a data warehouse, right? So the same diagram, but a little bit of ingestion process, how we are staging the data from one system to another. We call it like ingestion. On the bottom, we have an ingestion. Basically, we are taking the data from the source system and then pushing to the data warehouse. So we are using the Informatica as our main tool as of now. It has some issues, but we are fixing it, and as we move forward. CMI is like Cloud Mass Ingestion Tool. It's basically take the data from Oracle source and then deploy it in the Snowflake data warehouse online. That's the promise, basically. But when you look at the data, there may be some delays, sometimes minutes, sometimes days. So we are trying to work with our vendor, Informatica, to fix that issue so far. And then IACS is another tool with the Informatica that takes care of extraction, transaction, and loading, all those in batch mode. So CMIS does near online, and then IACS does it in an hourly or like whichever the scheduled way. It's a batch process. And then we are using Lambda to get the data from external resources. Sometimes they will get the files in JSON format. They will place it in our AWS S3 buckets and stuff. Then AWS Lambda will take that one and process it, and then pushing to our Snowflake, right? And then is secure FTP is very common. We'll be getting a lot of files from external vendors, and then we'll process it in in a batch mode, or like in a everyday, weekly once, sometimes monthly once. We'll be doing it. And then Snowflake, as I told you, like Snowflake is our data warehouse, SaaS-based data warehouse, right? So it has its own inbuilt functions or inbuilt tools. They've got the Snow pipes is one of the type. So basically what it does, it can just show the pointer to the where the data is available. It can extract and load to the Snowflake directly without using any other external tool. It's going to monitor certain folders. If you see the file, it's automatically picks up and put it in the data warehouse. It's a pretty good tool. We are exploring still further. At least we have at least two different projects currently is going on without using Informatica or Lambda or any other external custom functions. And then we are using some cases Python as a custom connector to the different tools, and then extract the data and place the data into Snowflake. That's the ingestion process. One of my we have three different teams. One team is doing only this data ingestion portion using these tools. And then transformation is kind of, we call it data modeling team. From the raw data, they will be transformed into like a useful data, connecting multiple tables or creating the views, or like, it's much more closer to the useful for the, consumption area. In the consumption area, we will have Power BI as we are using Power BI for the dashboarding. Tableau, we have it at certain level, but we are planning to decommission that one also pretty soon. And then Cognos reports, that's the old report, IBM reports. We are trying to move that Cognos reports to Power BI. That's, we call it Apollo project. It may be, it is still in progress, but we'll be moving about 1,000 reports to Power BI by February. So the whole big team is working on it.
Hey, Stassi, I had a question coming in real quick on that previous slide. Somebody wanted to know, you kind of described what type of files you're using with the specific ETL or ELT tools for ingestion and things like that. Mm-hmm. Do you find that those are, you're making those decisions for software choices exclusively based on the format of the source file, or are you using them differently in different business units or from different business purposes standpoint in terms of feeding the data into the various targets? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Basically, it's we choose the tool based on the how soon the data needs to be ingested, right? One other thing. And then if we can use IACS ETL tool, if they want to have like a daily once, it's a batch job, and then we can use IACS tool. But if you want it like as soon as possible, then we will be using any other tool that can Python tool or anything else. It's based on the priority and then based on the source. If you have a CSV, I told you like Snowflake has a Snow pipe that it can extract, immediately place the file in there. But if it is like we want to run at the end of the day or weekly once, we might choose IACS batch job. So depends on like how soon the data needs to be processed and executed. Does this make sense? So it's a combination of both, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I'll let you know if there's a follow-up on it if somebody isn't clear, because they're coming in from various places. But I did get a follow-up from another listener here that wants to know, kind of following up, why Power BI over Tableau or other options in terms of visualization of the reports themselves.
Right. For the visualization, it's basically licensing cost is one of the main factor that moving away from a Tableau to Power BI. Power BI is kind of a part of our Office 365 environment, and then it was for I think Atalam is finding resources to work on the Power BI easier than Tableau, I guess. So that's what the reason they're moving away from Cognos as well as the Tableau to BI, Power BI. I think like there are about eight resources, developers working on Power BI right now. But Tableau was a little bit harder, and also like it's not part of our a Microsoft cloud environment. They want to engage more of those things. So I like Tableau honestly better than Power BI, but it's a choice that they went through all those like vendor selection and tool selection process and finally came up with the Power BI is like maybe the better choice.
I had another one come in here kind of following up on that as well. So can you talk a little bit about where the raw data comes from and how does that get served up to Power BI? Is that specifically what you're using Python and some of these other tools to do, or is there a dedicated tool or some other way that you're handling that?
All right, data is coming from various. There are two types of customers for us, like who can give us the data. One is internal, all the finance, HR, or like marketing in a department and other things. Those are like I'm sorry, like marketing is like external vendor. We used to buy the leads from the external vendors. They will sometimes send us like a CSV files. And then also there are like several tools to support the students, right? The Recruiter is one of the thing, and then also scheduling programs like or if you have some schools are using Zoom, that's also external vendor. We can give them create the logins for the students separately, those kind of things. So we have so far at least I do have like 20 different vendors sending the data, right? They most of them are sending a CSV file, and then at least I've seen like 3 or 4 vendors sending like a JSON files. So those are the when we are sending the data out, like government agencies, we will be sending the data. They're using only CSV files, nothing else. And then also when we send the data, we sometimes encrypt them and send the file. They can decrypt and use the data for the security reasons. So I would say like kind of external vendors and then internal customers are our data sources. Did I answer the question? It's kind of for let's say
I
if
think so. And like I said, we'll see if I get a follow up and
you,
ask further. But
right. And then the
that seems
second
to have
part of,
covered it.
yeah, second part of the question, like how do we, ingest the data to the Snowflake or Power BI? Are you going to use directly ingest to the Power BI, or are planning to use data warehouse, right? I believe that's the question. So most of the time, like we are trying to put the data in Snowflake data warehouse. From there, the developer can use the data. It is available. It is always like get ingested in the batch process or like on your online processes. So we are not directly ingesting any data to Power BI, but we are putting all the data into data warehouse so that it is visible to everyone, all the developers, all the customers, and it can be useful for all the IT to develop the report and the dashboards. So we are always use the Snowflake or the data warehouse platform as like gather all the data, put it there, and then use it later. Right.
Okay.
All right. I hope I answered your question, but I'll wait for your follow-up question after this. All right. So 3 stages: ingestion, transformation, and consumption. This is what we stopped there, I believe. So the CSV, JSON, XML, and then there is another one is kind of a connectors we are using also, like kind of Supermatrix or Domo or Fivetran. Those are the tools. They have their own connectors. Even I think Office 365 has a flow or Power Automation tool that has a connectors. We use sometime to connect with any other external tool. I would say couldn't, like say Eloqua or Mail Monkey or something. So those kind of tools, like we can use it directly use the connectors to connect the external external portal or any other source directly to our um, Snowflake platform, and then we can schedule the job to extract the data every hour or every 15 minutes and then place it there. We went through like several other platforms, including Fivetran, Domo, and Talent type of thing. Proof of concept we went through, but and then we ended up sticking with Informatica as of now. But probably one of the main other source of data is coming from paid media, um, paid media like Google searches and LinkedIn, those kind of paid media services that they're sending the data. So these external tools have a connectors that can connect to Google Ads or LinkedIn, get the data directly. That time we will be using the connector, but we will schedule the job using some of those Python code also. So the Python code use the connector and get the data and place it in the Snowflake. So that's also like an ingestion area that I missed to tell before, that the connectors area, right? All right. So we were talking about the data issues, like, what if the data is wrong? Like what kind of common data issues that we are seeing in the TLM environment or any other companies, basically like, integrity issues, like basically we got the data, but whatever the data that's supposed to be there, it's not there. We cannot identify if like if internal finance or the finance team standing like paid this much of amount that they paid the student, like if you miss the student ID, how do we identify that one, right? So we are working like recently, like I think yesterday's problem is like we have about 150 records from banner database without primary key, and then it breaks everywhere, right? Our Power BI dashboard is breaking, and then because of 150 records doesn't have that one. We are trying to work with them to either delete it or fix the data. They are in the upgrade process right now. It's like kind of pushing, but hopefully today we will resolve that one. So this is one of the samples that we are getting in, because they're getting they're sending millions of records. Few records have it's corrupted, and then it's going to break everything. So how do you fix it? We will see it in the next slide also. And then referential. Um, excuse me, um, is the other one, like basically we have a detailed records, but there is no corresponding master record. We've seen that one in several times. It's kind of become an orphan record without, if we get the students' grades, but we don't know who's that student, what is his, which class he is enrolled in. We don't have that reference, and then the reports might be breaking. Like, how do we fix that one in this one? We didn't see that many, but at least this is happening in the past. And then domain, like, this is one of the interesting case that not I tell them, like my previous company, we used to collect the data from various stores, how much they were selling on all those stuff, right? It's a retail company. They will send the data, but one particular product is kind of selling in millions and millions, and then it's kind of outlier. And then we were looking into that one, and then um, instead of putting the quantity, they are putting the SKU number somehow. The SKU number is like six digits, right? So quantities will be selling in millions. We are selling this kind of pen in millions, whether we buy it or not. So all the predictive analytics, all those things are happening. So that's kind of domain, even though it's a numeric value, but they're putting the wrong value out there, right? Sometimes we will have an age with some hundreds of, like 3 digit or 4 digits age, that's impossible, right? Those are the domain errors, but we won't be able to see it unless the basic outcome of the look at the dashboard or any other reports, we should be able to identify the one. And then data issues can happen during the flow, during the ingestion period. Sometimes we get the data and then watching some folders, and then if you miss one or two tables or one or two files, then it will corrupt the data, and then delays in ETL process. I told you, like, CMA is like an online product, but if you want to compare the source to target, and then there is a delay in between during the transformation, anything. I see the data in Oracle, let's say like I sold like 500 quantities at 10 a.m., but my dashboard is now it's 12, still shows zero. What is happening, right? So should I tell like we didn't sell anything today? Those kind of delay might be happening. So we have to, when you compare that one, like, we have to set the expectation, right? How long it's going to take, when we can run the report and all those things. Duplication, overloading. This is one of the other issues that we recently went through. Um, when you load the file, let's say CSV file has like 100 records, right? And then it processed like 30 records and stopped for some reason. It has like a wrong character or something, unable to process it. We thought like entire file was not loaded, and then we reload one more time. So we will have 30 records additionally. Those are considered like, because of the reloading, we have additional 30 records. And then somebody might have built that, you know, data modeling, extract the data, transform it, or create the summary reports. Still we have that 30 overs, additional records. So one of the other interesting thing is like, sometimes the source system, they wrote the application like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they don't have any problem. One of the recent issue that we came through is like kind of last name change. One particular table, they are not updating the record directly. Instead, what they were doing, like, they copy the old record to the new record and then update the new one, and then mark the old record as like soft deleted. They set the flag. ETL, we don't know about that one because we don't understand how they are doing it. So we just ingested, and then they are seeing like in a double. The report shows two records, two records, two records, sometimes three records. You know what is going on. So, and then we have to focus on that particular table and go through, talk with our application team and see how you guys doing it. We ask them to fix it in a different way, like no, 15 years we are working on this application. We didn't want to change it, right? Because it works for them. If the problem, it's your problem, you fix it. Like, they're not saying right away like that on your face, but we understand that they are not willing to make any changes to it. So we have to work on it, how to avoid those duplicates, right? So these are the data issues that I came through over like 8 months. And then
Sounds.
yeah.
Yeah, I had another question come up. So do you have a scenario where I'm just going to read this to you as it's written. So do you have the scenario where you have the same data is received from maybe different sources? And if so, how are you handling that scenario if it comes up?
All right. Basically, like our ingestion process works a little bit differently. We are not, once we take the data, right, we are placing it in the raw area before make it use of the data, right? So whatever they are giving, and it's going to be landed up in one area. So if even it's like a customer A provide the same data, and then customer B is the giving the same data with the different additional, but it's ended up having in one particular table. When you do the modeling, that particular data will be like eliminated because of the duplicate, right? There is a one more scenario. Currently, we are still working on it. When we get the marketing data from different vendors, like they might give us like fake data, right? Or same data with a different like Mickey Mouse, Mouse Mickey, like that, right? So we want to analyze that one, but we are going to take the data as it is, and then we are trying to find the duplication out of it, right? Sometimes we get the data from Qualtrics with the IP address itself. We are trying to figure it out. We can use it as a primary to eliminate the same data is coming through with the different names and stuff. That's happening. That's an interesting case. But for the question that you have asked, if we get the same data from two different vendors, we are still going to take it as and put it in the raw area as a two different tables. When we merge it, we will see the duplicates and eliminates it. And then when you do the transformation, this will be eliminated, and then consumption we will be seeing only one data. So it will be taken care at the transformation, but the ingestion area, in the raw area, we will have all the raw data available. All right. I hope I answered your question, but I'll wait for your follow-up question if it is not clear.
Carry on.
All right. So the next one is like, I think I talked about this one a little bit. How do we identify the data issues? One of the best areas that we will be finding it out from our customers, basically something they want to see. They see it in like a source is different than the target. is very much different what is going on. So that's the data issue is happening in between. Somebody dropped the ball, either in an ingestion area, transformation, or like Power BI, like in dashboards and stuff. So for my department, like our job is to get the source data as it is to the Snowflake, right? Ingestion is my main goal. So I don't need to understand what is in the data, but all I care about like a source data. Oracle has this much of data. Do I see it in the Snowflake? Yes or no? For me, is the best tool is to count the number of records. Right? I don't want to go by the number of sales or like grades or anything else. I'll just count how many records in the source system and then see, do I see the same number of records? If there is any difference, and then see if there is continuously doing the same thing, like 100 records are dropping off each time, and then it's what is going on. So we for the raw area, best tool is count the record, right? And then if you want to go multiple times, if the counts are okay, but there are missing data, then we can go by table by table. But we have about like more than 1,000 tables to go through, so we won't do it. So basically, counting records is one of the best helpful feature that we have. We are running for 3 schools Oracle as a source, counting number of records for all the tables, and counting the number of records in Snowflake, and then compare it, like at what point of time it's all syncing, on what point of time there is a difference. Like we are running hourly basis. um the, so it shouldn't be sometimes like countings. Select count star might not work because it might take longer. All the database, almost all the RDBM is providing the metadata, like how many tables, how many records in the table. We can just query the system table and find out what it is. We are doing it direct count because it was running really quick, like within 30 seconds. It's all the records are counted in all tables. And we then use Snowflake meta system table, metadata table, because the variance between the actual count and the metadata update takes some time. So, but we want to have it right away. We just count it and compare it. And then other three is basically looking at we are depending on our customer to say what is wrong. Like some students say that their grade is off by zero point 0.5 all the time, or like I got like a 4.9, but I got 4.8. So the tickets will be created and then the investigation will be started that way. Once we know what is the problem, then we have to drill down like the layers of process that we are doing. From the source is looks okay, and then go to the raw area whether the data looks fine, and then the transformation area, once we build the model, is looks okay, and then when we send the data to the external system where it shows like Power BI or Tableau or anything, where the data looks good or not, right? These are the areas we are going by step by step. I say drill down, but it's kind of a step by step process that we will make sure like it's all the data reflected correctly in all the areas. And then other one is we are not doing it in Atalam, but my previous job we used to do it. We used to get the data in XML format through the MQs, and then a lot of process like price changes, number of sales, or the SKU changes, all those things from coming from external system to the current system called merchandise management system at Fallen. Um, we will do like it's coming in like near online time, but the end of the day it goes to like 5 different stages. One is like just receive it, and then mark it is like received, and then validate it, and then process the data and send the confirmation back to it. If anything wrong with this in these steps for some reason, at the end of the day it will go and look for the how many requests that we have received, whether all are processed. If something is not processed, then reprocess at the end of the day. So that's automated. Initially, we used to do it manually, and then we automated that process. So it runs every day at 6 a.m. I'm sorry, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to fix it by itself. So we are trying to do that one with our CMI tool. If there is any consistent discrepancy happens between the Oracle and Snowflake, and then we are working with our vendor to call an API to resync the table automatically. Right now, we are resyncing it manually. right? So it's at the reconciliation report slash process flow for fixing the data. So we'll let the system fix it by itself. So it's moving forward. That's a work in progress. Hopefully, like we will get a solution in a week or so. All right. Right. So this is kind of, I touched a little bit in the previous slide itself. So how do we fix the data? All right. We know there is a problem. I don't know where do we fix it, right? So best thing that to start with the like a source. The source is good or bad. I told you about the last name change. They're keeping the records, right? And then creating the new records and creates a lot of duplicates. We want to avoid that when we work with them, we talk with them, but it's. So basically, this is garbage in, garbage out. Fix the garbage first. That's easy to say, but in my experience, most of the time, the source is not get fixed. What we can do about it, we have in the transformation, we put some validation into it or create the views to give you like unique data and then push it there. It's harder in my experience at least, but hopefully other teams and other companies have like a very uh, collaboration is there.
Hey, Sasi,
Mhm.
quick question. So what limits on the amount of data or concurrent users do you have with Power BI on your current setup? And I think this came over when you were on your previous slide. I don't know if that helps you tie it in, but
Um, what is the limitation of number of records in Power BI? This
yeah, what limits do you have on the amount of data and or concurrent users with Power BI?
right now in Antalam, like we used to have like a P1 level Power BI license, but we expanded to P2. That may be like because the number of dashboards and reports are created so many. But I'm not sure I can answer this question because it depends on the license that you can have, how many records that you can have. Probably like close to million or so. I'm not sure, but then I can get back to you on that one. But we have like a tier 2 license with the Power BI, supposed to handle like millions of records there. So it's also like kind of a cloud-based solution, right? So we might have if you need additional um, processing power, we should be able to buy at the P3 level. But it did not happen so far because in the transformation or data modeling time itself, we will be reducing, we will do all the summary level. We will summarize all the data, give the summarize the data, less number of records to the Power BI. When you do the modeling itself, it's like a lot of duplication avoided, a lot of processing happens, right? So we will be sending like a per class and per student summary level data there. We don't we didn't cross the reach the limit yet, I think, in the P2 area. But in a number of reports, yes, we reached the limit in the P1 level. That's why we reached expanded our license to P2. So I don't know is there any hard limit like on the Power BI yet? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So as we are talking about like how to fix it, and basically the best choice that we have is to talk with our source, whoever the data is they are providing. If it is external vendor, it's very easy. I know this timestamp is not working out for us because it's collapsing our thing. Change the timestamp, they will be able to do it. And then if we see any data that's corrupted, we can ask them to resend it. So it's a source is self-fixing. Start from the beginning and then try to fix it from there. If it is internal vendor, if there is anything that they're exporting the data or that their table needs to be fixed, fix it there itself. That's our best choice. Second thing, we are looking at the ETL, ELT process, right? ETL means it's just extract transaction load as it is, right? And then ELT is basically extract and load first and then do the transfer later. That's what we are mostly doing it. We'll take the data as it is and put it in the raw area. And then we fine tune our data and then place it in the different table that goes to our data analytics team as well as BA team. So if you find anything in the modeling time, if you created any duplication or your SQL is wrong or view is wrong, has to be fixed that way. By looking at the code that how we are developed, and then we can fix that way. And then also set the expectation right to your customers. Like even though like an SLM service level agreement says that we will be near online, sometime it may not be. If you are relying on multiple stages, so like in Oracle, we have a physical layer, and then we have a logical standby server layer, and then it comes to Informatica ETL tool, and then it goes to Snowflake. From there, we are doing the modeling, and then it goes to um, Power BI or the reporting area, right? It might take a little bit of time to go. When they see the data in the source that says um, like enrolled number of students is like 100, and but it doesn't show up in the Power BI at like noon, they should not be thinking that's the data issue, but it should be like kind of it takes time to travel that data from one source to another. It might be taking some time. So just make sure if you promise like online data will be available in milliseconds, it's like if you're over promising. Like always have a some um, SLA adjusted for yourself so that we have some breathing time to look at it and then make sure like the data is closed correctly. Near online is the same thing. It's we are like instead of having like a milliseconds, you might have like half an hour time delay on stuff. And then batch, it's like every day, even if it is running 6 p.m. did not work, we can run it next day morning to extract the data and load it before the business starts. So it's easy, like kind of we have a lot of time to fix it ourselves. So we have to look at you have to balance it out, how we are promising, right?
Sasi,
And then,
while we got a quick break there, and a question, and I'm gonna, okay, here, there's some information. Give me 1 second, I'm sorting through it. So how many layers do you have in the data lake is kind of the first part of the question. And then what does each layer do from the ingestion point to whatever the last layer is? And they clarified saying that ingestion layer is essentially the raw layer.
right. So basically, we don't have too many layers, I would say. We don't have a data lake as of it. Basically, in the data warehouse itself, we have two layers, basically raw and then modeled, right? Raw data is basically as it is, like raw data, it's coming without any transformation or anything. Or CSV file, even if it is like timestamp, we will have it like kind of a text file, text column, timestamp like that. So that's the one layer. The second layer, like model, we will be transforming, make it like a timestamp is a timestamp, or summarize some of the data, or connecting with the other tables, make sure that data makes sense. That's the second layer. In the transformation layer, we call it like data modeling area. So two layers, but in data, if you, once we get the data lake, we don't have a row column theory there or structure. If we get the JSON file, we dump the JSON file in the data lake, and then we will transform that JSON file into a data warehouse. From there, we will feed it to Power BI. So it will have an additional layer, but my understanding, data lake is going to hold raw data in raw format itself, either CSV or JSON or XML. But I didn't have any knowledge about that one yet, but we are looking into that option because keeping in S3 bucket all the CSV file may be risky. Instead of having that, we can have it in our data lake as it is, like we can maintain it and we can dump it whenever we need it, or we can use any other um, maintenance that we need to do it to there. So right now we have two layers, and then once we go to that data lake, we may have multiple layers, like raw converted to, raw in raw format converted in a raw area, and then we are going to the modeling area. So I would expect additional two layers there. All right. All right, and the fourth one, I think we missed to talk about this one, integrity issues. And then there is no way we cannot put some junk data there, or we can just default it. Primary key is missing. We cannot do anything. We have to take out that, I said like 130 records still in trouble. We have to take out those records and then push rest of things and then ask the source team to fix it. or delete it from your source system. So we are all in sync. So that's the easy one. But when you delete it, remember, just don't delete, issue the delete command. Just copy those records to a different temporary table and then delete it. You might need it sometime back. I did some mistake in the long time ago. I learned it. I think with that one, my presentation is over. Let's go to Q&A. We have additional questions and then we can talk through it. Scott.
Yeah, and at this time, everyone is welcome. If you have questions, feel free to unmute and ask Sasi directly, or you can continue to use the chat feature if that's your preference. I'm happy to moderate. Not everybody all at once.
Right.
All right, well, because that's it.
All right.
Yeah, I think everybody might have asked them as we were going through.
Right.
Looking like it.
Yeah,
Well,
feel free to
thanks,
send your
Sasi.
questions if you have anything to Scott and Bob, and then they will forward to you. Or if you want to keep this going in coming days, thank you very much for your support, Bob and Scott. Thank you so much. And then,
Yeah, great. And thank you. I mean, you're the one that made the presentation, so I appreciate
all right.
you putting all the slides together and actually just stepping up to do it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We have the PowerPoint. If anybody wants it, like I said, just email Scott or I, and we can go ahead and get it out to you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Sasi.
Yep, bye.
Okay. Bye.